Phone please, everybody. So, yesterday we had a quiz, so if you were not here, you gotta make sure we do that. Yes. So, first things first, we have a UIL grade check on Friday. So if you need to be passing for something, Friday's the day. You want to be passing by. Okay. We have a test on Thursday. Okay. So tomorrow we'll review. Today we're just going over some word problem stuff. I want to make sure we finish our quizzes. Right. So here we go. Number 1, given the domain, find the range. Now, does everyone remember that domain is X? Okay. Everyone looking up here? Writing this down. Domain is X. And then the range is the Y, right? So remember, Y, or f of X, is right here. So when they give us the domain, they're giving us the X, and what you're going to do is evaluate or plug in or substitute right here where the X is. Okay. So 1, 2, and 3, I'm plugging in where this X is, so I'm really trying to find f of 1, f of 2, and f of 3, okay? So replace x with 1, replace x with 2, replace x with 3. So I'm going to rewrite it. Instead of x, I'm going to put parentheses 1. Instead of x, I'm putting parentheses 2. Instead of x, I'm putting parentheses 3. Right? So again, if you have a domain, replace x with each domain value to get the new range. So you could just put the right side of this equation into Desmos and it would evaluate it for you. But we're going to do this mental math. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7, right? So you can plug it in each time, get your 3y values, and now we write the range. Please remember, range is brackets, and you do it from least to greatest without repeating. So that's 3, 5, and 7. Okay. So like I said, quick notes today. We have one today, but also at home, it's fine too. Or other classes if you have free time. Let's talk about this. We got notes. Now, TBH, this is not brand new stuff because you've seen this type of stuff on this assignment behind me on 910. So again, this is not brand new, but we're reinforcing this today because you'll probably see it on Thursday, right? The test. And you have an assignment today, just with extra practice. I know. So here we go. Everyone's looking up here. No phones, no headphones. Here we go. Let me be very clear, okay? When you see a bunch of words, it's called a word problem. Step 1 Look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. Step one is to read it. If you don't read it, you're going to do this to me. You're hurting my heart. It's going to stop beating. My lungs will collapse. I'll faint. I'll turn pale. If you don't read it. If you're taking the EOC and you see a word problem, you need to remember Mr. G doing this. If you don't read it, read the problem. What do I want you to do? Read the problem. Does everyone hear me say that? Okay. It costs you nothing. Remember, if you finish the EOC earlier than everyone else, you don't get a prize. In fact, you're just going to be bored longer. So just read the problem. Please. Let's try it. Example 1. It says a florist is making bouquets of flowers for a wedding. Each bouquet will have 9 flowers. That's important. The graph shows the linear relationship between y, the number of flowers, and x, the number of bouquets. Now look, it's a word problem, but we have a graph. We have a discrete graph. We're going to use that picture, okay? It goes on to say the florist will use no more than 8 bouquets. Do you see how the bouquets stops right here at 8? So it makes sense. For the wedding, which set best represents the domain and range, right? Now I know everything's already typed off to the right here, but I want you to look at the top. Step 1, how do I solve a problem like this? You need to list the ordered pairs. Right here, this is step 1. Okay? So do you see, and again, I got to see you looking up here at the front, everybody. So do you see that they took this graph and turned it into a bunch of points? Okay? If you can write out the points, you're halfway there to finding domain and range. Now look, on this graph, this right here is easy. It's 0, 0, right? No big deal. But look at the second point. What is the x value between 0 and 2? This has to be a 1, right? But what's this y value between 0 and 18? Is it exactly half? It is, but if you get confused about the numbers because they're not labeled, look at your problem. It tells you it's 9 flowers each bouquet. So that means for one bouquet, that should be 9 flowers. Doesn't that make sense with the word problem? Each bouquet, 9 flowers. So that's why 1 is 9. Okay, 2 is adding 9 more. You get 18. 3 is adding 9 more. You get 27. 4 is adding 9 more. You get 36. And do you see the pattern? You're adding 9 each time. It matches the graph. So all these points, we have them written out here. And then step 2 and 3, identify x for domain and put them in brackets. Okay? Then step 4, range in brackets. So you got step 2 and 3, you got step 4 and 5 here. Doesn't this make sense for domain? Because look, the x value is 0, 1, 2, all the way up to 8, right? It said no more than 8. So all those x values are in order, and then for the range, all these y values are in order right here. So even though it was a word problem, we take the points, write them down, and then put the x's in order for domain. We put the y's in order for range, okay? So there's not really anything to write or do with that example 1. It's already on there, but we are going to try example 2. So look, example 2 is a word problem. What do I want you to do for a word problem? What's step 1? Read it. Read it. All right, so let's do that. Example 2, a coach has 96 golf balls for the school's golf team. Okay, so he's got a bunch of these golf balls, and it says the coach will give each player on the team 8. Okay, now if he's giving away 8, is that going up or going down? It's going down, right? He's giving them away, so look how the graph is going down. It makes sense, right? He's subtracting 8 each time. So when you give each player 8 golf balls each time, it's minus 8 each time. Okie dokie. So y is the number of golf balls, x is the number of players. So let's go ahead and step 1, write these points. So if he starts off with 96 golf balls, that's 0 players, that's 0, 96. That's on the graph itself, okay? I can see it right here. By the way, this is 0, 96, not 96, 0. It's x horizontally before the y vertically, right? What's the second point? Here's 1. What is this number right here? It's not on the grid, so it's not 84, but I know he's subtracting 8 each time. So what's 96 minus 8? 96 minus 8 should give you 88. Okay, so after 1 player, he gives him 8 golf balls, and he gets 88 after he subtracted 8 from 96. Okay, now for 2 players, he gives away another 8. So now this point right here, I can't tell from the graph what it is, but I know I'm just going to subtract 8. Do y'all know what 88 minus 8 is? 80. Cool. And we're just going to keep that pattern going. And notice it says that he has how many players on his team, right? Down at the bottom, he will use no more than 6 players. So that makes sense that it stops right here at 6. So let's keep going. 3, comma, for 3, it's on the grid. You can see it right there, 72. For 4, I'm just going to have to subtract 8 from that, and I get 64. Okay, for 5, it's not on the grid, so I got to subtract 8, and I get 58. 56, my bad. Last but not least, this is on the grid, 6, 48. Do you see, if there's a graph with a word problem, you read it, look at the graph, write down the points. Now this should be pretty straightforward, easy to find domain and range. What are the x's? What are the y's? So what's the domain? The x values are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because there's only 6 players when he's giving away these golf balls. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in brackets, least to greatest, no repeating, right? However, range is tricky. It shouldn't be, but please remember, one of the rules for domain and range is you have to put them in order. What's the smallest range value? And tell me why it's not 96. That's not the least number on the y value. What is the smallest y value? That lowest point was at a value of, well, it went a little further than that. At the bottom here, we have 48. That's my smallest y value, okay? So I'm starting at 48, and then what's the next highest y value? Well, it's kind of working backwards here. 56, then 64, 72, 80, 88, 96. That's how it's done, okay? Write that down and then flip it over, please. We have another type to show you, but it's a type you should have already seen. In fact, we did it today on the warm-up. So again, step 1, write the points. Step 2, x's and y's in order without repeating. That's domain and range. Anyone still need this? Flip it over on the back. Now look, here's another word problem with no graph, but what's our step 1? We're gonna read it. Read the problem. Even if you're like, I'll never understand, just try. Give it a try. Good try. Now, I'm going to read the steps on the left first. Step 1, find the equation. When you're reading it, sometimes there's an equation, right? Determine the variables, x and y. What do they mean? Look for any rules or conditions on those variables. Find the possible values for a variable and the other, and then list the domain and range depending on what they're asking for. So look, example 3. A set of weights includes a 4-pound barbell, right? So this is more like a curling dumbbell, okay? 4 pounds just for the bar, and then you have 6 pairs of weight plates, okay? Now, if you have 6 pairs of weight plates, that's what you're adding to the barbell. The total weight of the barbell and plates in pounds can be represented by step 1. I found the equation, right? There it is, found it. And we're looking for domain and range. Now, do you remember the warm-up today where I gave you the domain? This one does not give you the domain number-wise, but it's in the word problem, okay? So look at the work down here, okay? They found the equation, 20x plus 4, right? They know that the f of x, the y value, represents the output, which is your weight. X represents the plates. Okay, why does x represent plates? Because it's independent. Okay, the weight depends on the number of plates. Whatever is depending on something else is the y value. The independent variable is the x value. Okay, so the conditions. Do you notice how he said he only had 6 pairs of weight plates? That means he does not have 7 or more. 6 is the maximum he can use. So that's our condition. So what does that mean for plates? He can put none of them on or up to 6 of them on. So do you see how his domain is 0 plates, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plates? That's the domain. And now that I have a domain, I can do it like our warm-up today. Plug in the domain into the equation, and you'll end up with a range. Domain is independent x. Range is dependent y. Okay? Stay with me. One more example. Here we go. Example 4. What are we going to do first? Read. Let's read. The total cost in dollars to buy uniforms for the players on a volleyball team can be found using the function. Hey, here's step 1. I found the equation. There it is. An Easter egg. Okay. So f of x equals 30x plus 5. Go ahead and put an x here. This is not supposed to say u. It's supposed to say x. Okay? Where x is the number of uniforms bought if there are at least 8 players, but no more than 12 players on the volleyball team. What is the domain of the function? Do you see how it's only asking for domain? We're actually not going to have to do any of this stuff right here, like the warm-up today, because they're only asking you for the domain. So step 1, I found the equation. Step 2, what's the independent and the dependent variable? What is x going to represent? What is y represent? Now I want you to think about this. They're trying to order uniforms for volleyball, right? So there's 2 things that we have here. We have dollars and players. If I'm trying to end up with a cost for these uniforms, which depends on which? Does the amount of dollars depend on the number of players, or does the number of players on the team depend on the dollars you spend? Which one makes more sense? The money depends on the number of players, right? That's how we figure out how much it costs. The cost depends, well, how many players are there, right? And we actually don't know. It says it's between at least 8 players, no more than 12. So between 8 and 12, basically, right? So the x value, the independent variable, has to be players. Or as I like to say, playas, which is a funny joke, because where do volleyball players play? On playas. Ha ha ha. Ja ja ja. It's my bilingual joke of the day. Get it? A playa is a beach volleyball, playas. Okay, anyways. Playa, playa. All right, anyways, that's ha 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 players. That's how you say it in English. All right, so X is players, Y is pesos, no, dollars. All right, money, dollars. If the X value, the domain is players, all they're asking for is how many players? What's the least amount of players? 8. What's the most amount of players? 12. So literally, your domain is between 8 and 12. So put a bracket. We don't have any half people. We have just 8 or 9 or 10 or 11 or 12. At least 8, no more than 12. That's it. Okay? Okay. That's all I got for these notes. Notice they didn't say range. Now, if they said range, could you plug this stuff into this equation? Like, could you replace x with 8 and 9? You could if it said range. This one only says domain, okay? So, careful when you do this. Careful with what they're asking for. I'm going to give you a little assignment on this. Here we go.